if you have an idea, if you're passionate about something, make it work. But understand that if you're going to take that leap of faith and that jump, that you have to grind and grind and grind. But if you love it, if you're resilient, if you're passionate, there's no better excitement in life than really seeing something that you build from nothing to helping others. So,
welcome to Innovator Tribe Outside the Bubble,
a show about bridging the gap between the inspiration of an idea to the creation of a product.
What's going on, Ahmad?
What's good, Toye? We meet again.
Yes, sir, man. Looking forward to the show that we have ahead of us. But before that, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I've been having a productive week, just knocking out tasks. But yeah, man, I'm doing good. Better than last week, that's for sure.
That's what's up, man. Same here, man. Just, grinding and just keeping it pushing. You can't succeed without hard work.
Like randomly, I'm looking forward to spring. It's like starting to get warmer a little bit where I'm at, and starting to see some little plants bud and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to spring. Yeah, it's gonna be a good summer. Same here, man.
I feel like it's been unseasonably warm just across the country.
I don't mind the warm days. Like, it feels good. I just sit under my deck, drink a beer, and enjoy Mother Nature.
Yeah, I love it, man. Summertime is definitely my favorite season, but spring is a close second.
Yeah. Well, I mean, our guest is from a warm climate. He's I guess we got to tell the people about who we got on the show today, right?
Yeah. Andy, is this Sabarian?
Yep, Andy Shea Sabarian. He's the founder, one of the co-founders for an ed tech company called Pledge Sense. Really cool dude too, man. Yeah, I knew him personally, and it was cool to catch up with him and learn more about his business.
Yeah, I was definitely intrigued by his story as well. Really, just because the Pledge Sense is essentially it's a two-sided marketplace, meaning you have people that are coming to the site to donate, and then people that are listing whatever campaign that they have going on. So, with that, you have that, chicken and egg type of situation. Do you have to populate, with donors, or do you need to populate with campaign owners? And he actually went into that, and I thought his strategy was pretty good.
Yeah. And like, it's interesting how he even got to that point, because he initially had the idea just sitting on the couch with his pops, and he was watching a Shark Tank type of show, and the story is like a hallmark classic of the power of a strong partnership, because he called it his best friend, and they didn't have any really prior experience within crowdfunding or technology, but they had a passion for education and solving needs for education, and they just got their heads together and found a way to solve that problem through tech. Really cool story, and he explores a lot of the ins and the outs of moving from that ideation standpoint to servicing more than 400,000 students nationwide now.
Yeah, 400,000. I mean, that blew my mind. And I think, in the grand scheme of things, this definitely has a social impact. So, he really is a social entrepreneur, but even being a social entrepreneur, he also, it's a for-profit business. So, that requires not only revenue, but sometimes it also requires having investors. And I like his strategy on, how being a co-founder or a CEO, you really need to be able to manage expectations in your relationship with your investors, because they are essentially the people that you're answering to, at least at that point.
Yeah, he had this funny story about how he learned how to work well with his investors by establishing a strong advisory board. And it's a really funny story about how he went about building this really dope advisory board that's guiding him and his co-founder on making the key decisions to keep Pledge Sense with hitting new milestones and new levels of success.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to share the story with our listeners, and I think we can go ahead and get started. But before we do,
Oh yeah, there's that one thing. Subscribe and rate. How many stars?
subscribe and rate people, preferably 5 stars. But whatever rating you decide to give us is definitely considered positive feedback, and we definitely want to make sure that we provide relevant and informational stories with you guys here at Innovator Tribe Outside the Bubble. So please
Yeah,
leave your feedback.
yeah, definitely. Like, and plus, if you really do enjoy the show and want it to spread and help other people connect and learn more about these stories, then that 5-star rating does help to just spread the show to other listeners. So yeah, you think it's that time?
Let's get it started.
All right.
Cool breeze, cool breeze. Hey, 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 cool breeze, cool breeze.
I'm super excited to catch up because you've been really busy with PlushNet since I saw the email from our old job that you were starting the company. So it's going to be learning some new things about you as well. Just to give you a little bit backstory, I just want to share like how we met, and then you jump in though and fill in any gaps about it. But we were both working at Starwood Hotels once upon a time, and we're in the same department, really, well, separate departments with same fields within revenue management. And I knew there was something different about a guy because we both kind of started casually talking about startups and this technology scene. And I realized that I was very young in the just learning about the field myself. I was able just to connect with Andy really, really well in that regard. And he was just telling me about everything from his interest within that space. And then outside of that, it just seemed like a cool dude just from Houston that, was a fan of the everything Houston for the Rockets and Texans and everything like that. And my Bears were a little bit better at that time. But I digress for anything Chicago related these days.
Yeah, we just try not to bring them up these days.
But that's the backstory from what I share. And one thing that's my main takeaway from Andy, and that is probably going to be really great about this conversation, is that he's such a humble guy, and it's reflected from the company with PlushSense, just with how he serviced this the problem within ed tech. And so that's it's always been cool to have a good friend that I could reach out to, that always looks out, and just so humble, man. So again, it's cool to have you here. And did I miss anything from that backstory about how we met?
No, I think you hit it on the nose, man. I think maybe you left out the details if you just kept continuing to stalk my cubicle every now and then. But outside of that situation,
The stalker.
There wasn't too many cool people in the office. All right, for the record.
For the record, there wasn't anyone cool in the office. Outside of my no, man, it was a cool. It was a crazy experience, but it was cool to connect then and still be connected. I think you're honestly the only person I'll talk to periodically from any of the people back that we used to work with. So I think that's a testament to just our friendship and the growth of it. So yeah.
Yeah, I could say the same.
Awesome. I'm not surprised because I feel like, I know Ahmad. I've known Ahmad for a number of years now. And typically, the people that Ahmad either introduces me to or he mentions are usually, just very cool people, down to earth, not too much hubris, but really just very practical people who are very much doers. I'm sure you can testify to the fact that, Ahmad's a doer. Obviously, you're a doer, going from the corporate world to actually building your own company. And, that's exactly what we're here to talk about today. But before we get into that, one thing we like to do, each of our guests, is to talk about music, specifically, music that kind of gets you in the zone. For me, it's usually like, some sort of hip hop song, and, it might be for you as well, or it might be another song. So, I'm just kind of curious, like, what is, the hip hop song or song that you listen to kind of get you, hyped up, whether it's for like for an interview or investor pitch. What's that song? What's your go-to song?
Man, I don't really have a go-to song, to be honest. It's kind of whatever I'm feeling. Some days, I'll be honest, since George Michael passed away like a couple of weeks ago, I've been jamming George Michael all day, every day. So I've been listening.
Classic.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing that. I can go into, if I do hip hop, I'll do some Meek Mill, some J. Cole. I go into Josh Groban, to Michael Bublé, to Frank Sinatra, to country.
Okay, pretty eclectic.
Yeah, I go all over the place. It just really depends on what mood I'm in that day, and what kind of focus I'm trying to have. Because if I put on some hip hop or some EDM, I'll be dancing more than I'm working.
It's funny.
Hey, sometimes a dance break though.
Yeah.
He started out saying he didn't have any, like, not go-to music. Then he lists out an entire list. Anyway, I saw a tweet. I saw a recent tweet from you, Andy. You mentioned how, like, you heard B.I.G. Notorious,
yeah.
Playing, and you knew it was gonna start to a good day. So music
It
is
was like last Friday. I live in Philly, so I'm in the city in downtown. And it was last Friday. It was like at 7 in the morning, and I'm on the third floor of my building, and outside, some car was just blasting Biggie, and I was like, I didn't even need an alarm clock. That was my alarm clock, and I just woke up and I just put Biggie on my Pandora station. I was good to go for Friday. It was great. You're right about that, Ahmad. Good call.
Yeah, that's dope. Like rolling out of bed, next thing you know, you hear like Biggie playing like it's a soundtrack.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, I was like, oh, this is Friday. This is what Friday's about. All right. That was good.
So, like, the reason we love this question, because one, it sets the tone for as an entrepreneur, you got to get into that zone, and really want to begin just to uncover and unpack your background. As an entrepreneur, this is like your first business that you saw that went into fruition. Just from the backstory you share with us a little bit. But what were those business ideas that happened before Pledge Sense?
Man, I've had like 50. I've gone from a car wash business to an online service platform for the airline industry that I'm thinking of, to hospitality, into hotels and restaurants. I'm crazy in the sense that, I'll walk into a building, or I'll look at something, and immediately I'll think of the flaw, and I'll see if there's a demand there, and I'll try to think about, can I meet that demand, or provide something to meet that demand or that need. So, I've thought of a lot of different ideas. Pledge Sense is the first one that's actually followed through and gone into fruition, because the need was so detrimental, and it was much more than just a business idea. It was so much more, because we're talking about, the impact we can have on students and their lives. Then that's so much more than selling a widget for $10 and hoping I make a 80% gross margin profit off that kind of thing. So there was a lot more passion, a lot more commitment, a lot more dedication behind making sure Pledge Sense was attempted than any of my other kind of ideas.
Yeah, that's pretty dope. And one of the things that I actually find pretty interesting that you actually just mentioned right now was, you were talking about a car wash, you were talking about some sort of online service platform, you were talking about just a myriad of, you even talked about possibly even a restaurant. So considering your hospitality background and the various ideas that you had, how, like, at what point, like, what drew you to building Pledge Sense? Like, what made that stick for you, and how did you get to that point?
Great question. It was, so in 2012, right before I moved to Atlanta, it was like 3 days before I moved to Atlanta, I finished grad school, and I was watching CNBC with my dad, and it was a think tank show, and they talked about crowdfunding. And so it's talking about Kickstarter and Indiegogo and what they were doing to break down the financial barriers for businesses, for entrepreneurs, for startup companies who couldn't get loans because banks' interest rates were insane, or they just weren't lending out money. Investors weren't investing, so they had to find somewhere else to survive. And so that financial model was really interesting. And so I immediately started looking up Kickstarter. As soon as I looked it up, I called one of my best friends since 8th grade, Ricky, and I asked him, I said, hey, have you heard of Kickstarter? He said, no. I would go, have you heard of crowdfunding? He said, nope. So we just started looking at it. And I remember the night before I moved to Atlanta, I was at Ricky's apartment, and we were just on the floor, and we were just talking about what can we do, because this financial solution, it's the way that we're going to evolve as a culture, as an economy down the line. So what can we do in this space and have a really strong foot now to set us up for the next 10, 20, 50 years. And then from there, we started looking into education, because that's where our passion was. And a lot of our friends were in Teach for America, or just regular teachers in lower economic areas. And, they were talking about, oh, I spent $2,000 this year. I spent $3,000 out of my own pocket this year. I spent $1,000. My kids can't go on the annual 4th grade field trip to Bluebell ice cream. And just like stuff like this that we never, unfortunately, or I guess fortunately really, we never had that problem, or we never even thought about not gonna have number 2 pencils for the test, or paper, or journals, where, some of these kids, they're sharing notebooks because there's not enough notebooks to go around. And so when you really dive into education and you start seeing the true problems we have, honestly, it wasn't okay, Ricky, we have to make a business to make $100 million business and then sell it. It was more of hey, we have to do something here, because every day we're not doing something. That's every day a child is going without that experience or that opportunity to get what we had growing up, to have that fortune. And Ricky and I, just like, I'm sure the same with you guys and many others, there's no reason that we should have been blessed or fortunate to have had the educational opportunities we had growing up, more than any other person out there. And so it was really kind of a really passion cry for us to say, okay, we had it, we were blessed. Now we really have to try to do something here. And worst case scenario, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but at least we made an effort. And so we're fortunate enough where we're now about 2.5 years strong going into it, and helping over now 400,000 students around the country. So it's been a very, very awesome blessing so far.
Again, a humbling answer. Like this, that's why I said, like, you're like a humble guy just from the story. I want to go back to like one thing you mentioned in the beginning of that portion, and that answer was that you looked into Kickstarter, you heard a little bit about it, but you really didn't know, like you or Ricky really didn't know too much about that space or that industry. And I know a lot of our audience, they have an idea, and when they start, they may not have a lot of background within that space. And similar to yourself, like you have like more so, a hospitality background, if quote unquote, expertise on paper. So what are those actionable steps when you're first starting off and you realize how much tasks and work is ahead? How did you break that down to start making some progress towards that?
Great question. I mean, it's funny. The way Rick and I did it, it's the way that every investor will tell you not to do it. Okay. It's like, if you have $100,000 and you write a check to somebody, you're gonna give money to the person who's worked in a restaurant as a busboy, as a front desk receptionist, as a waiter, as a sous chef, as an executive chef. The person who has experience in working in hospitality at a restaurant, you'll give that person $100,000 over the person who says, look, I've never, other than eating in a restaurant, I've never done anything in a restaurant, but I want to open up a restaurant. Give me $100,000, right? You give the person who has the experience, who has the repertoire, who has the understanding of how the industry works. And so for us, for Ricky and myself, neither one of us were teachers, so we didn't have that. Neither of us were in the tech business, so we didn't have that. And so it was a lot, and I mean a lot of research, a lot of due diligence, a lot of just talking to people, talking to teachers of every type public school teachers, charter school, private school, teachers who just started a week ago to teachers who've been in the game for 25 years, to principals, to superintendents. I mean, anybody who said education, if we were on a plane and the person unfortunately next to us said, I'm a teacher, they got bugged by us for an hour on that flight. It was so much trying to understand, and we still do it right now. It's so much us trying to understand, look, we know we're not prepared and we don't have the experience, but we want to know from you, what do we need to know? What experiences can you tell us that we can then compile with everyone else's experience that we've heard of and start having at least a better idea of what's going on. And so we started subscribing to education articles or journals online, reading, what's hot in education, what are the topics that are going on, what's the budget issues that are going on, what are teachers saying it, what are unions in the education world saying it about what's going on. And I think we did a really good job with that. And then we did a really good job ourselves. We have a rock star advisor group. I mean, if you're talking about education players, the people in our advisor group right now are some of the biggest names, not only in the investment community, but just in the education reform community. And we're fortunate enough to have their ear, to get their advice, to get their mentorship. And so I think my biggest advice is if you're trying to get into something that you don't know anything about, or you know something, but you're just not as experienced as, someone else down the street might be, you have to understand your hustle's got to be 10 times harder. You got to grind on it 20 times harder because that person's got 10 years of experience when you have nothing. So either you can just try to BS your way and act like you know and then fail in 6 months, or you do about a year of due diligence or 6 months or 8 months of due diligence and actually understanding, and then you go and try to make it work. And we did the latter, which I don't know if I recommend, but if you're going to do it that way, just know you gotta grind a little more than the average Joe who's been in the game for about 10 years or 5 years.
You touched on something that I feel like is very, very, very important and key to, building a solution that the market will actually take to, right? Speaking to the customer, understanding the industry that you're working in, understanding not only where it is right now, but where it's going, right? You talked about, you have advisors that are part of education reform. And those are all very valid and important points, especially when you're not technically an expert in the field. One of the things that I'm curious about is you said you had a rock star advisory team. How did you go about securing that advisory team?
If you ask my advisors, that they would love to answer that. A lot
of stalking, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it really is a lot of stalking. I email them, I follow them on Twitter, I LinkedIn them. I'll email them about setting up a meeting. If I don't hear back, I email them a couple of days later about setting up a meeting. If I don't hear back, I'll find out if they're going to an event in the area and I'll show up at the event. I mean, it almost got to a scary situation. But and I said, I'm not taking no for an answer. I mean, I talked to my advisors now, and there's one advisor here in Philly. She's the director of academic innovation at Penn's Graduate School of Education, and she always jokes that, the one thing she doesn't have to worry about, myself or Ricky, is the persistence and our drive to, if we want to get in a room with you, we'll make sure you either file a restraining order on us, or you'll sit in the room with us, right?
Oh wow!
I think it has to be. Okay, I may sound crazy. I don't think you got to go to the extreme, but I think what you have to do is you have to put yourself out there in ways that others aren't, because you have to realize that person, for them, you're not top of mind. For you, they are top. They're top of mind for you, but you're not for them, right? And so you're one of 100 other people who's trying to get that ear for 30 minutes. So what do you have to do to try to get in the room just to make an impression, and then hope that one impression continues to build the relationship? And so that's one thing we did. Like right now, we're about to open up our next investment round, and what I'm doing is I email the investors that I'm looking to get in a room with. I follow them on LinkedIn, or I connect with them on LinkedIn. I follow them on Twitter. and I continue to update them. I ask them if they want to get updated with our progressions weekly. And so if they want to sit in the room with me today, then they can. If they don't, but they're still interested, they can see my company's progression every week as we're growing, what we're focusing on. So at the time that they feel comfortable, they know enough about us, so we don't have to spend, 30 minutes trying to do that due diligence. They already know what's going on. So it's tactics like this that I've learned from other successful CEOs, founders, advisors, investors that we try to do our own thing with.
And you're dropping so many gems on how you have to hustle to move from like that idea stage to something that's that's viable and something that somebody can see a representation of that idea. And I kind of want to dig into that piece a little bit more. How did you get that first version of PledgeSense created? You mentioned how neither you and Ricky were tech people from your background. So what did you do to get that built?
A lot of stupid mistakes and costly mistakes.
Do tell, please. Our audience want to know.
I mean, like if you guys want to have a whole other show about what not to do, I can take up that entire hour. It was when we were at Atlanta has a very thriving technology scene, much more now than it was when Ahmad and I were living there. And I was trying to go to different meetups in the area just to learn, what's going on. Try to, pitch my idea to people who would give me an ear and see if I can find developers and what that would be. Then we started researching developers and we started asking our friends, do you know anybody who does development work, builds websites, does all that? And a friend of mine, we had quotes. So to build a website, this is how crazy it was. We reached out to about 12 different development firms. We had quotes to build a website anywhere from $20,000 to about $250,000. And when I say costly, we're not dumb, so we didn't go for the 250 round. But we ended up talking to one of our friends who knew somebody who lived in New York. And so we contracted that to build up just the prototype and the beta. We built a beta. It was not good. Now looking at it, it was great for when we were there at that stage, but now looking at it, it's kind of embarrassing that, that's where it was, but you got to start somewhere. We built a beta that took about 8 months to do, and a good portion of capital from myself and from Ricky. And then we started to test the beta with some of our friends. And then we were fortunate enough, Ricky was in a hackathon event in Houston and came across a developer there who just really connected with the mission, the idea, the business model and everything. And so he then rewrote the entire code in about 3 to 4 months and built a whole new website with a new UI, UX design and everything. And then we started iterating on that design and building from there. And then a year later, we rebuilt it to what it is now and going forward. So yeah, we spent a lot of money. We spent a lot of time. But again, it's those costly mistakes that you do when you don't know any better.
Yeah. I feel like, a lot of times when you have founders who don't have the technical, knowledge to actually code, right? You spend either, a lot of time trying to learn how to code and actually building something, or you spend a lot of money either with a dev shop or a freelance developer. But I was curious because, you talked about actually getting the site up and then you actually went into, multiple iterations to what you have now. But before you actually, built that initial MVP, what was kind of the market validation for you? And I'm assuming that it has something to do with the conversations that you were having with teachers and your advisory board, but how did you go about kind of validating, this idea before you actually went ahead and put some money towards it and getting something built?
Yeah, great question. Basically, it's exactly what you said. There were a lot of the conversations we were having with teachers, with principals, with superintendents was pretty similar, where the frustration was so large, and there wasn't a need. I'm sorry, there wasn't anything to fulfill their need. And so as we continue to do more research and surveys and asking people and talking and having conversation, we realized that there was something here that we need to explore a lot more. And at the worst case scenario, let's try to get something up. Let's see if it works. And we'll go from there and, take a huge risk. I remember actually the day that I quit from Starwood, I sat down there with Ahmad and I's boss, and I sat in the room and I was really scared to do it. And I told him, I was like, I'm doing this idea. I want to see it through. I need to focus on it 100%. I can't just do 2 different jobs. Cause there was a time where, when I was in Atlanta, I'd wake up at 6 a.m. I'd work from 6 to about 7:30, 8. I'd go to the office, work from, I think our time was like 9 to 10 or 8 to 10, come back home, and then I'd work from about 10:30, 11 to about 1 or 2 in the morning, and do that for about a couple of weeks, if not like about a month or two. And it just got too draining. And so I had the conversation with him, and he was really supportive, but his advice was, let's see if this actually works and then make the decision you're doing. And I'm the kind of guy where I'm a very big risk taker, and it's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just that's who I am. And so I got enough data and enough support, and I had enough money in it at that time to the idea that I needed to see it through. And so we did it. We launched it. We started with friends. I'll tell you that the coolest part was the first few weeks, the first couple months, we would monitor who would be contributing to different classrooms through our site. And we'd see every time someone made a contribution, I would text Ricky, like, hey, Ricky, do you know who this person is? And he's like, yeah, it's my friend from college. Or this person would come up, I would go, oh, it's my friend's friend from college. So we knew always who. And it wasn't until a couple months in where finally, a person contributed. And I text Ricky, I go, Ricky, do you know who this person is? And he's like, no. And so I texted a couple of my friends, like, hey, do you know who this person is? Like, no. And I was like, oh my gosh, some random person who doesn't know us actually came onto the site and contributed. And it was that awesome feeling, for any brick and mortar shop when you get your first dollar bill. It was that kind of let me frame this moment in our business's life and our young entrepreneurs cycle. And that's kind of that's the evolution. I know I kind of probably digressed from your question, but hopefully
that's exactly kind of what I was trying to get to. What was the validation that you guys are hitting on something? Obviously, when you tell a teacher, hey, we're going to create a site that allows you to get money for your classroom, who's going to say no to free money, right? But getting to the point where you actually have people coming to the website, without any sort of prompt, what you call earned traffic, that's definitely key for validation. So
yeah, I think it's to the point again. You're hit a spot on. When you tell a teacher, I'm going to build something that's going to get you free money so you don't have to spend money, of course they're going to love it, right? And the question then is, okay, well, how am I going to get you that free money? I promise you something, but how am I going to do it? And so it's a whole nother kind of layer that you got to figure out in the process. But yeah, it's been good so far.
I take that as dealing with this one element of rejection or opposition that you're going to encounter, when crossing that chasm of your development for your product. What was that like from this is education. This is with students. There's red tape and crossing those hurdles with regulations from, this anything dealing with education and children. How did you get crafty with overcoming those challenges?
Oh yeah. It's, there's a reason why healthcare and education are the 2 sectors that are the slowest adopting and moving sectors to advancement. Because there's so much bureaucratic, excuse my language, bureaucratic crap.
No, go for it. Yeah, this podcast.
There's so much bureaucratic just crap and red lines and red tapes from 50 years ago and regulations. And there's people in positions that have been in that seat for 25 years and they want to still use a chalkboard and a chalk. And it's just so frustrating that anytime young-minded, progressive innovators, entrepreneurs want to do something, they get burned out because there's just so much they have to go against. And so, in education, this is just education and healthcare predominantly, what we had to do was, again, through those conversations, we had to figure out, okay, if we're going to build something we obviously have to make that something fit into what you're currently doing and the process that you're currently going through, so that we're not, stepping on anyone's toes. We're not going over anywhere. We're in our lanes here. And so it was a lot of the communication to figure out, if we're going to build a technology, if we're going to build a system and a process in place, what do we have to do it in schools, and to get it approved. And to be honest, there were districts that when we first started, we reach out to them and say, hey, can we do this with your schools and blah, blah. There are districts who said no. And there are districts now who still say no. And not because they don't want to, because they have no idea what crowdfunding is. They're intimidated by the idea of crowdfunding because they're not willing to take a deeper knowledge or deeper dive into understand what crowdfunding is. And then a year later, we had a number of those districts reach back out to us, not only to say, hey, we'd love for you guys to help our teachers if you can, but can you help build us guidelines and some tools that we can have a better oversight in our district about crowdfunding. So it's one of those that I think if you're very resilient and have thick skin, you'll kind of see it through. But it's very difficult and it's still frustrating now because, again, like I said, there's still districts and smaller communities who are just like, our district's banning crowdfunding. And it's thick-minded responses. It's just.
But do you have like one example of like something that worked on one example you can share for someone else who may be dealing with an idea that has heavy regulation and they want to innovate within that space? What's one example of something that works with getting those types of people that are your gatekeepers to say yes, we'll try this?
I think what you got to do is, like, for us, it's going to the district admins or officials and saying, hey, how does fundraising work at the district level or at the school level? What's process A through Z that has to be done? Who needs to be, approving it? Who needs to be in the communication stream? Who needs to be receiving the money? Who needs to be reporting the money? Who needs to receive the tax receipts? All that kind of stuff. We would go to principals and we'd go to administrators and district levels and ask those questions and just take notes to figure out what is that process. And then we would come back to our side and say, okay, now that we know that this is process A through Z that's currently going on in paper and handwriting and reports left and right back and forth, how do we automate this? Who do we need to streamline the communication to? How can we build this where when we go to the district and say, look, you told me that if a parent wants to give to a classroom, they have to go to steps 1 through 5. And not only have we built that for you guys to streamline it, but we've made it so much more transparent where now the parent is in control of where their money goes and how it's being used. So we would just listen to a lot of what they were doing and see, can we replicate that in a platform? And then can we streamline it to a much easier way?
Wow. Andy, I mean, you're really hitting on some very, good stuff there. And, it's obvious that you are, and your company is where it is, right now, going through the website, 600,000 raised through the website. I know you guys have had some success raising money as well. And I think that's just a testament to really what you're speaking to right now, like, those customer interviews, really truly understanding, what is the process right now and how can we make this process easier for, the teachers? How can we make this process easier for the parents? And it's really only through conversation, right? Really trying to understand exactly what they're doing and how they're doing it and how you can improve it by utilizing technology. So kudos to you and your team. One of the things that I'm kind of curious about is, obviously this is a two-sided market where you have the teachers that are soliciting funds, for whatever purpose, but you also have the donors as well, right? And typically, when this is just my kind of broad sense of crowdfunding, right? So you have kind of a campaign, right? The person behind the campaign is trying to raise money for XYZ, and then they usually would kind of send it out to maybe their contacts. But, typically the ones that are successful are the ones that are able to get people outside of their own network to donate as well, right? So I'm curious to know, like, how do you get those additional people to the site? Like, what has been your strategy to getting people to pledgesense.com?
It's the chicken and egg problem, right? It's the Travelocity problem when they first started, right? I have a lot of hotels who have open rooms, who I need to go and convince them to sell those rooms at a discounted rate. Then I need to go find people who are willing to go and purchase discounted rates from hotels. But I can't go to the hotels unless I have the people, and I can't get the people unless I have the discounted rated hotels. Right? So who do I focus on? Which one of these players is going to bring in traffic from the other side? Right? And so when we first started, that was a big question that we were really harping on, is exactly, we can get the teachers. Lord knows teachers have a million needs in their classroom, so that's not a problem. But where do we get the money from? And so the way we focus on it is we actually focus on each individual person's direct network. So in crowdfunding, statistically, 75 to 80% of the money that's raised for any given project or campaign or cause comes from your direct network. 20 to 25% comes from your second or third tier network, or the quote unquote random people, right? People are poorly mistaken, unfortunately, when they think that Joe Schmo is sitting in his mom's basement and he's scouring GoFundMe to give to every dog's cancer treatment that he can find. I mean, Joe Schmo probably has no life, but Joe Schmo's got more of a life than to go and do that, right? It doesn't happen, right? What we see is we see on CNN, we see on Fox News, we see on local media, the big crowdfunding campaigns that have raised a couple $100,000. Couple $1 million, tens of thousands of dollars. And we're like, oh, wow, this is amazing. People are just putting this on the news, and then people are just giving $100. But at the same time, you don't consider that if I go on GoFundMe, over 50% of the projects that are live on that site have $0 raised. Mm-hmm. Why? You know that, right? You have no idea about that because GoFundMe, and nothing to GoFundMe at all with this. I'm just using an example. GoFundMe does a really good job of hiding those projects that have nothing raised, that you as a consumer have to go and try to find that project, right? They're not just going to show on their homepage, oh, look at all these projects that have $0, give $10 here. They're going to show on the project, hey, these are the projects that have $10,000, $20,000, $3,000, $100,000, $500 raised. Here, let's see if we can foster it. So any given crowdfunding site, on average, is about 50% that have $0 raised, and that's because people who create these campaigns think that, hey, if I create a page, God's going to give me $10,000.
Right.
It's not the situation. So
I just so happened by chance, I was listening to a podcast about someone in the crowdfunding space as well, and it was important. Like, there's many of the people who create these campaigns forget the aspect of not having an audience before they launch the platform. And so how do you, like this specifically with the teachers that you are attracting to this platform with, like, hey, you have the opportunity to, fund these projects. How do you also get them to figure out how to bring that audience to the platform to support their cause? Because I'm not sure if, do they know that they have an audience to engage to get the funds that they need? Like how do you bridge that gap?
That's a great question. It's really originally it took a lot of what we would do when we first started is we would have one-on-one calls with every single teacher who created a cause. So we would get on the phone and we would talk with them one-on-one. Who is in your network? What type of network do you have? What type of community are you surrounded by? What strategies can we help you with? What we've done is each one of our users has a resource library, and there's tips and there's tricks in there that other teachers have used to utilize Facebook or to engage via email or to get their pages. I mean, we've had teachers who've been on local media, on USA Today, on Huffington Post, on the Ellen Show. So we take their stories and then we draft up a tips and a tricks version of it so other teachers can figure out, okay, this is my kind of scenario, this is my community, how can I leverage it? And the one thing we have to always keep in mind on our end is teachers are not fundraisers. That's not their job. That's not their title. It's never been in their description to do it. So what we need to do is tell them, look, people want to help you. They want to support you. They just need to know how to and where to. That's it. And if you create a page to raise money for prom or to field trip or supplies or whatever it is, your job is to get the word out there. And here are some ideas on how you can get the word out there on Facebook, or by emailing your students' parents, or creating a flyer. So it is a little bit of hand-holding and educating the consumer. But, there's also a lot of those teachers who utilize our platform who are very social media savvy and tech savvy, and they know exactly what to do and how to do it. And they raise money in a couple hours easily. So
Nice.
it's a mix of different types of educators that we work with.
That's awesome.
Like I mean, just looking back, like this is something that you took from our original idea, like this idea that from that show that you were watching with your dad, and you have just been going through the process of just continuing to iterate and change and move from one platform and overcoming another obstacle, and so now you have traction. I mean, I before this this call with you, I realized that you had some success at, I want to say, Townsend University with Lee Labs, and you was able to be successful with that incubator, raising $25K. Like that's huge, and like a lot of our audience members are trying to get from that idea to understanding how they can be retrospective and see their business have progress and grew like that. I was giving a little bit over summary, but like I wanted to talk about where you're at today from that progress, and maybe you could speak a little bit about that experience with the incubator as well.
Yeah, we went through we went through an accelerator in Dallas when we first started, and we were like one of 400 companies who applied. There was 14 who got accepted. It's the number one B2B accelerator in the world, top 10 in the country. It's called Tech Wildcatters. Really awesome experience. Rick and I moved to Dallas for 3 months. We worked literally every day from about 9 a.m. to like midnight or 1 a.m. And we did it for 3 months straight, just grinded it out. It was a great experience. It was really fun. Met a lot of very, very smart, intelligent people, hardworking individuals. And that kind of catapulted us to understand, all these things I'm talking about now, how to get advisors, how to be persistent, how to keep your investors up to date, stuff that we may overlook. That accelerator gave us those kind of focuses and insight on how to do it. And then this past summer, we were recommended to join a fellowship in Kansas City, Missouri, I believe. I hope I got that right. They're going to hurt me if I didn't. But in Kansas City, nonetheless. And
Right.
We went there for about a month. It's called the Lean Lab. Really great people trying to do some amazing things in Kansas City in education, and there's a lot of really passionate people in Kansas City doing that work. And we worked out of there for a month, grinded out there. One of our team members went there and lived there, and then we were fortunate enough where it was a peer-to-peer ranking, and at the end of the month, we came back a couple months later and did a presentation, and our peers ranked us as one of 2 companies to walk away with a $25,000 grant. So we were able to receive that in September, which was it was good. It was good validation, continued growth. But yeah, I mean, we've been fortunate enough. We've had a couple of different grants we've been able to win, and some awards we've been able to acknowledge for, and it's all great. But again, to be honest with you, that's hearsay. I mean, more importantly for us, it's, there's millions of students in this country. There's tens of millions in this world. And that's really where the accomplishment comes, is if we can find out how to really impact those students more than if we get an award for X, Y, or Z. That's great. That's fun. That's cute. But unless we're doing our job on the other side, it's not going to make a difference.
Those are like some major accomplishment, but you're also really focused on remembering why you started Pledge Sense in the beginning, and I want to get on both of those points. But I don't want to overlook the fact that getting into some of these incubators is probably a lot of steps that goes into that process, and some things you have to present yourself and just to get into that environment. Do you have any advice for anyone who's like looking to break into that space with accelerators and incubators?
Yeah.
How do you stand out?
Yeah, you have to, first, we applied to probably 100 different accelerators. And not knowing, we just found the name. If someone at a bar told me they ran an accelerator, I applied. It was like that. So I don't recommend that. I recommend you go in and you do some due diligence to figure out what type of accelerators, because each accelerator focuses on different aspects and different industries. And it's really important to look at the accelerator or the incubator, because there's a lot of them now these days, to do research to find out what type of companies have gone through there, so you can see kind of the network of expertise that comes from there. Like if I'm in hospitality, I don't want to go to an education technology accelerator or just a regular one. Right. I want to go to an accelerator that has a network of mentors or investors who are very experienced in the hospitality sector that can benefit me. So I would say do your due diligence on that. I would contact some of the portfolio companies who've gone through it, talk to them about their experience, their good, the bads. I would apply then, and then I would apply. When I apply, I'd make sure what I would do, I would email everybody who works at the accelerator, the incubator, just so they know who I am. I'd connect with them on LinkedIn, and I'd follow them on Twitter, just so they see my name in multiple places. Like, okay, this person's, a little more active than usual, because you got to find ways to stick yourself out of the crowd. And then when you do your, a lot of these accelerators, incubators, they have you got to submit a video about yourself or your team. Have fun with it. Don't just do a video that's going to be, my name is Andy Shea Sabarian. I'm monotone and I suck at life. You gotta.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. That doesn't sell.
Yeah, you gotta just have fun with it, be goofy with it. Like Ricky and myself, again, we've been best friends since 8th grade, but you couldn't be any more different than the way our styles of business are. I'm very crazy. I'm very just out there with my ideas, and Ricky's more focused, I would say, in the sense that he comes from a very big investment banking world and understands a lot differently than I do. And so when we would do these videos, I would always have to pitch Ricky on the idea of, hey, I know this is crazy, but what do you think? And a couple out of a dozen of my ideas would go through, and he'd accept them, and we'd run with it. But yeah,
the yin to your
yang.
Yeah,
it truly is. I think that's a whole other question that I don't know if you guys are going to ask. But when you get into business and you're going to find a partner to do it with, or a co-founder to join you, you have to make sure, one, you guys get along very well. The two reasons why companies fail: co-founder dispute, lack of capital. That's it. Right? There's companies that we know of that went through that accelerator with us in Dallas, and they're no longer in existence because the co-founders after that, they couldn't see eye to eye. Right? And so what was really good, and what every investor who's invested in us said, what every mentor who's been there for us, advisors who've guided us, what they all say is that Ricky and I complement each other so well, because what he's good at, I suck at. What I'm good at, he sucks at. And we understand each other. We know how to push each other's buttons, but we also know how to speak to each other with respect and with love to say, look, you screwed up, fix this, or, this is an awful idea, fix it. And so I think that's been really important for us as a growth, because I've seen it too much where founders just fall apart because they just can't see eye to eye on the growth and the vision and all that. And
yeah. That's that's such a great point right there.
And he dropping gems.
Yeah, I drop keys. Call me Khaled. I drop keys.
Major key. All right.
I'm watching that snap way too much. I drop keys.
The whole world is watching DJ Khaled snaps.
Yeah,
it's crazy that the year that guy has had. But you really hit on something as far as, what the team, right? Your team is so important, right? In the sense that when you're trying to, build something, and, any entrepreneurship journey is going to be difficult. I don't care what anybody says, whether you kind of, struck gold, within the first, couple months or a couple ideas, there's going to be some sort of decline, right? It's kind of up and down, and having somebody or having a team that understands that it's not going to be easy is very important. But also having a team that really understands the fact that, hey, if we're building something, it's not about me, it's not about you, it's about this company, and how can we both communicate with each other in a way that's not offensive, or nobody takes anything personal, but really understand like that is what it's gonna take for the product or the company to be successful. And the reason I say that is because I feel like me and Ahmad kind of have that as well. Like, he'll throw out some ideas, I'll throw out some ideas, and sometimes he'll be like, no, that's not gonna work. And it just forces you to like think a little bit harder, right? And sometimes that extra day or a week or however long it takes for you to think a little bit harder, really drives you to that epiphany moment that sometimes you just strike gold. But that's neither here nor there. We want to actually get into what we like to call the boom
dropping gems section. we haven't formalized like this section. It's like the fire round or the quick questions. We got some quick questions, standard questions that we ask every interview guest, and so they're going to be coming at you. You already been dropping a lot of gems, and so I kind of like dropping gems, so we may stick with that. But
have y'all listened to Eric Thomas?
Oh yeah.
So, they call him
TPIM.
Yeah, ET hip hop preacher. If you so if you wanna really, if you're lazy and you're just sit on your ass all day and do nothing, there's a video. Everyone, it's popular now. It's called Breathe as Bad as You Want to Succeed on YouTube.
Oh yes, I love that video.
The videos of the dude who does he's lifting, he's training for football, and then ET's in the background doing his thing. I am addicted to Eric Thomas and his podcast, and just him as a motivational speaker, because he just keeps it real. Like, I'm personally me, and I'm completely digressing from y'all's gem. I thought about this for a second, but
Go for it.
He was homeless, he was illiterate, he had no education, and he had nothing going for him at all. I think from a single family household. It was just, the worst of the worst of the worst and there's no reason for you to come out of this situation. And he goes and gets a GED. He then goes and gets a PhD. He's now one of the best motivational speakers around the world, talks to Fortune 500, sporting teams, and so forth. And I'm just like, it blows my mind what he does. And if you listen to him talk, he talks about the grind. He talks about, what you guys call gems. He talks about like the nuggets for him, what they do. So if anyone's listened to this, and you guys, man, I watch that video on repeat every day.
Yeah, we'll have to circle that. Yeah. We'll have to find that and put that in the show notes for sure.
Eric Thomas, that guy is inspirational for sure.
Yeah.
And so passionate too. I love his passion. Yeah. His passion's on another level.
It is.
But that actually kind of goes into some of the questions that we're actually about to ask you right now. And you can definitely kind of reuse that again if you want to, or just kind of add another one to it. Yeah. But the first question is, what are the top 3 tools you would recommend to yourself when you first started working on the idea?
Trello is one that we use. It's an app. They do. It's basically kind of like a task-based app where you can write all your tasks in there and keep track of your progress. And we use that on a weekly basis to say what we're focusing on for the week and so forth. So Trello's one. Slack is what we use for communication. It's pivotal. We're literally on there all day, every day now. We do a lot of action that happens through the site is reported to us through Slack because we just live on it. And then a third one, I would say, when we started, we did a lot of data capturing through Google Sheets, Excel spreadsheets. Lord knows, if I showed you our Dropbox, we have like 100 different Excel spreadsheets and Google Sheets. So those are, I guess, the 3 that I can think of off the top of my head right now that I would say for anyone who's starting out to look into or to start working with.
Yeah, those are some really, really good ones. Those are some really, really, really good ones.
The next question we want to jump into is, what do you do to keep you sane?
Workout. I play ball. So I have to get in the gym at least an hour or two a day and play basketball or just work out. I played my whole life, so just getting in the gym is kind of like a sanctuary for me to just get away from everything else. When I first started Pledge Sense, I went 2 years or about a year and a half of not working out as much as I used to. I used to work out every day, and so then it got to a point where I started getting burned out, and I have to now be in the gym and make personal time for myself to just kind of recharge the batteries on a daily basis.
That's major. You got self-care. It's important while we're in this journey.
Yeah, it really is. You can get burnt out really easily in this game.
I mean, health is wealth. Health is wealth.
Yep.
So the third question is, what is your favorite business book?
Ooh, great question. My favorite business book is Tony Tsai, who is the one of the founders of Zappos. Tony Tsai's book about customer service. I actually have it like arm's length from me. I don't really read a lot of books. I'm just going to preface this right now. But I read this book front to back because he talks about the culture inside of Zappos and Amazon and how that allowed them to separate themselves from any competitor. And it's just an amazing book talking about how there's so many times when Zappos was going under and had, 1 day left of cash in the bank, and just that eureka moment hit and they were able to surpass that and go moving forward. So that's a great book. I'd recommend anybody who likes to read. Tony Tsai's book is amazing.
Yeah, we'll add that to the show notes as well, man. You've been dropping gems. Yeah, well, we got one last question. This you may have a easy answer, but you may have to think about it a little as well. But what is something that you do not want an app to replace?
What is something I don't want an app to replace?
Yes, sir.
Ricky's going to judge me for this one really hard if he listens to this.
Let's hear it then.
I'm going to say because I have no shame in myself at all.
Keep it real. Keep it real. Yeah. Keep it 100.
I always do. The one thing I hate dating applications. And I say that.
What's the story with this? All right, come on.
I say that because I'm a hypocrite because I've been on them, but I hate it because I'm an old school dude where I want to meet someone, whatever, out in the street and the friends, whatever. I don't want to go there and be some skis who's meeting someone because you're hot, and then I meet you for drinks, and then you're just crazy as crap, and I have to deal with it. I feel like that's just there's some things that technology is good for. There's some things technology just needs to leave alone, and I'm so sick of, ever since Tinder did its thing, there's 500 different dating apps. There's Farmers Only. There's a dating app for I'm Persian. There's a dating app for Persians. I don't want to go on an app to find other Persians. It's just stupid. It's literally stupid, and it boggles my mind when people think that this is another good idea. Oh, Christians don't have a good dating app. We should build one just for the Christian community. No, build something else.
Christian Mingle.
Yeah, Christian Mingle. There's J-Date for Jewish people. It's insane.
Black people meet.
I'm telling you, I can go for days about this. I'm a hypocrite because I've been on them and I'm no longer doing it. I tested it out, but I'm just like.
Wait, did you hear about the one for the Ivy Leagues? It's unless you went to Ivy League school, they will not allow you on the app.
I'm sure there's going to be one that unless you have black hair, you can't join this app. unless you eat gluten-free products, you can't be on this app.
Oh, I could see it, vegan only daters.
Veganonly.com.
People in LA or San Francisco, some weird freaks are vegan only eaters or something. I can go for days. I just hate that. I just can't understand it. I think it's just absolutely a joke.
if anybody ever approached Andy at like from like an angel investor standpoint, and they pitched him an idea for like I'm the next Tinder of blah blah blah, like he's not going to invest in it.
You got a better chance of making that successful than you do getting money from me. You got a better chance of DJ Khaled losing weight than you do from
Major key. I love it.
Please tell me you guys saw that commercial of DJ Khaled being a personal trainer and has like all these people on a treadmill while he's sitting on the couch.
Yeah. I've seen it. I mean, I love the guy. I think he's a genius. And the way he's marketed himself through Snapchat as a medium, he's a genius in terms of separating himself from like a producer, from a DJ, and all that. But I mean, this guy's crazy with his keys.
I mean, take it to the next level. He's doing cocoa butter, almond milk, TurboTax.
I mean, yeah.
I don't know what else.
Yeah.
Like
he's. I mean,
Ciroc.
Yeah, he's got his own champ store behind his DJ studio.
Wow.
Like, it's just, I mean, kudos to the man. He's an innovator, an entrepreneur beyond innovative entrepreneurs.
Sure.
But, if DJ Khaled made a dating app just for the hip hop community, I'd probably slash him too with that. That's on the line of his ingenuity.
Man, I love what we're coming to, like the end towards the show, and I love to end on some good laughs and things of that nature. This has been awesome. But like this is also time for people to learn how to connect with you. So, you have any if you have any information you want to share, how people can learn more about PledgeSense and the things that you're doing within the community?
Yeah, go find me on Tinder. Just swipe right. I'll be there for No, I'm kidding. You'll never see me on that app. That's ever.
Unless Ricky puts you on
yeah, he'll love that one. You can. Anybody who's interested can definitely email me. My email is andysha@pledgesense.com. ANDYSHEA. On Twitter @pledgesense. That's CENTS. I'm definitely more than happy to share. I like sharing all the mistakes and all the costly mistakes that Rick and I have made. So anything I can do for anyone who's trying to get into this and thinking about it. My biggest key gem nugget, whatever, is life's too short. If you have an idea, if you're passionate about something, there's no reason that you should not take the risk and try it, make it work. But understand that if you're going to take that leap of faith and that jump, that you have to grind and grind and grind, because it's not just going to come to you on a silver platter. There is no such thing as a success story. Facebook was not made in 1 year. It took 10. Pinterest took 12 years, 10 years to make. So understand that there's a process that comes along with this game. But if you love it, if you're resilient, if you're passionate, there's no better excitement in life than really seeing something that you build from nothing to helping others. So those are my nuggets. So
Andy, this has definitely been an inspiring episode, and we definitely appreciate you for coming on and sharing your story. Talking about customer interviews, how you leverage Trello and Slack, and even the importance of, if you're going to try to get into an incubator, trying to find an incubator specifically for your industry, right? Because there's going to be so much value in not only the resource that they're going to be able to provide, but guess what? They're looking for ideas just like yours, right? And that was definitely some really, really good gems. Thanks again for coming on.
No, thank you guys for having me. Best of luck with the podcast, and can't wait to see when you guys are doing it like ET in a couple months, couple of years.
I like that.
Well, yeah, man, that's it, and we'll make sure to